Hello, this is Keith Graham from Codasip. You're trying to run the debugger. You're actually switching to the debugger perspective, but when you get there, there's no debug session occurring. There's no thread, and you look at your .s file or your .c file, and it appears nothing's going on. So we'll talk about how to solve that here, but first I want to show you why. Now let's switch over to Codasip Studio. And you can see in Codasip Studio that I do have an assembly program right here. I have my processor project in my workflow down here. You can see that I have assigned my software development kit to that processor project. Down here I've had a successful compile of it, so I should be able to go to debug. So I'm going to select launch debug. I'm going to debug this particular project. And you can see I switch over to that perspective. I have no thread, and a thread indicates a debug session. Here's my .s file for my code, and I'm not stopped anywhere. It looks like I went to the debug perspective, but I'm not debugging. The problem is you have not specified to the debugger to stop anywhere. You did actually go into the debugger. It actually started simulating or debugging your session and went all the way to the end to the halt statement and then exited because your program had finished. Now there's two ways to solve this problem. One is we can actually put a breakpoint. Let's go breakpoint at line 17. Go back to the workflow perspective. I'm going to launch the debugger. And you can see that I've entered the debug perspective. This time I do have a thread or session going on, and I broke at line 17 like I specified. That's one way of doing it. Now I'm going to get rid of this breakpoint. And another way of doing it, which I highly recommend doing, is set the debug configuration so that it will stop as soon as you enter the program. Later on you might say I want to stop after 100 cycles, for example. But right now we're going to say I want to stop as soon as I enter, so that is after 0 cycles, basically at the very beginning of the program, I want the simulation to stop. And now if I was debugging a C program, most likely instead of after end instructions, I would do at function main or some other function that I'd like to stop at. Now, since I'm doing assembly, I'm going to do after 0 instructions. I save it. I know when the debug configuration has been saved when the window closes. Now I'm going to enter the debugger for this particular project. And you can see that I forgot to close the other session, but I do have a second session going on. And I've stopped at line 14. You can tell that there's no breakpoint defined, but line 14 is the very first instruction of my C program, just like I specified in the debug configuration. Hopefully this helps.